everyone. Great to be here today. My name's Nich. I'm with 1KX. We're an early stage crypto native fund, and I'm joined here with some great speakers where we're talking all about user experiences. So I think to get us started, we can do a little round of intros. So please introduce yourself and the project you're working on.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris Osborn. I'm the founder and CEO at Dialect. Dialect, we're building the UX stack for Web3, and what we mean by that is blockchain links and alerts. We power alerts for a lot of Solana's leading projects, and then if you haven't heard of blockchain links or blinks, they are a new kind of UX superpower that lets products navigate to you. So the fastest way to integrate on-chain actions and experiences into your product.
Hi, I'm Jess Houlgrave. I'm the CEO at Reown. We are the builders of the Wallet Connect network, which is a chain-agnostic network of over 700 different wallets and many thousands of applications now. At Reown, we also build a couple of SDKs, one for wallet builders and one for app builders, to create great onboarding experiences and interactions between apps and wallets.
Hi, I'm Filip from Solflare. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO. At Solflare, our mission is actually to empower you to truly own and thrive. And Solflare was the first Solana wallet that ever existed. Right now, Solflare holds about 17% of all Sol is just being staked through Solflare. We have about 3.5 million monthly active users. And our goal is actually to protect you and to make you more successful.
Nice. So before we talk about user experiences, I wanted to briefly touch on use cases, right? And a great place to start there is wallets, because today, the wallet is still the closest thing we have to the one-stop shop for everything that a user might need to do on chain. Historically, this has been trading, right? But over the past few years, we've seen a proliferation of protocols and dApps. So I'm curious from Solflare's perspective, what's been the trends and why users are coming onto crypto in the first place?
It's mostly, wallets are tools that allow you to connect to outside apps, but also to hold and trade stuff. So it varies from time to time. So we had this NFT boom on Solana in 2021, 2022, where NFTs were the main drivers of acquisition of new users. Now it's, of course, meme coins that are very, very interesting to users because they see the opportunity to gain quite a bit of wealth. Honestly, it doesn't always go that way for users, but they're trying. So it's different from time to time, but there's also different personalities of users, so different user personas. So you have those that are very interested into quick gains. You have those that are interested in just getting Sol, staking Sol, and see it as their long-term savings accounts. It depends. So we see. If someone asks me what's the Solflare persona, I can't because we have 7 of them, and it's super hard to tell.
You have exactly like 7?
7, yes.
What are some examples?
Oh, okay. So it's the meme coin trader, it's the staker, it's the airdrop farmer, it's the DeFi aficionado, it's the I knew I'm going to forget that I asked you, but it's the person coming from a centralized exchange. So he's just coming in and trying to do stuff out. And I can't remember the other 2, but I know that we have 7.
And in terms of the expectations and standards that users have in terms of UX, how is that different today than it was, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago?
Anytime a new influx of users come in, they expect the same level of, I would say, UX that they see in Web2 companies that are here for 15 or 20 more years than we are. So there's many UX challenges that we're currently solving for. I would say one is definitely on-ramping and off-ramping. So there's still a lot of issues there. It's not quite easy. The success rates aren't there. I would say the second thing is discoverability of, okay, once I get into the wallet, I deposited some Sol, what I'm going to do next. So what is out there, and even more importantly, what can I actually trust to actually try out? And this is where wallets, again, as you said, as a one-stop shop, provide a big service because we are extending that trust to those apps if we recommend them. And I would say the third thing is still language. So crypto back in the days was built by engineers for engineers. We were executing transactions. So then signing transactions, and it's still very, very scary for someone who just comes in to sign something while they was just clicking on something. So we're going from executing to signing to confirming a transaction to finally just confirming. They don't even need to know that it's a transaction. So I think language is still like a big barrier for most users because it just takes some time to get used to it.
Makes sense. So speaking of onboarding, on-ramping, off-ramping, and just the user experience of interacting with the dApp, I think no project has seen how this has changed over time more than Wallet Connect and Reown. So yeah, you work with hundreds of wallets and hundreds of dApps. How have you seen the way that people have onboarded and discovered crypto differ over the past few years, and how is Reown's products positioned to sort of capture that trend?
I mean, I think my starting position would be that I'm not 100% convinced that a wallet is the one-stop shop for everything. We see that in the data. Most people now have more than one wallet. They have different wallets for different purposes. And that, for me, makes complete sense, right? The wallet that I store my crypto in, that's long-term, I'm probably going to use a hardware wallet, multi-sig, much more secure, very different to the wallet that I want to go and buy my coffee with. And interact maybe with a game on. So I think the idea that a single wallet can serve all of a user's on-chain needs is actually disappearing. We do a consumer survey every year, and even the difference from last year to this year in terms of how respondents talk about having different wallet experiences shows that people want different wallets, they want different things. I also think as we have more on-chain activities, it moves beyond just the meme coin traders or whatever. People are managing their data in different ways. They're managing their identity on chain. Again, this speaks to the need for having different offerings for different user types. So I think the idea that one wallet is the one-stop shop, for me doesn't completely fit. I also think for each of these different users of crypto, they're coming to it from a different perspective. And as we've seen time evolve, in the old days, it used to be that you come because you're interested in crypto. So your first point of contact is to download a crypto wallet. Right. And there you start to trade, you start to do things, and that becomes the launch point for you to then interact with an application. Increasingly, I think people are interested in the applications themselves rather than the crypto, which I love. I think this is where we get adoption, not just from people excited about crypto, but because we're building games that are great, because we're building new financial experiences that are innovative, because we're building different things. And so often then the app is the point of contact. So the discovery process becomes you're talking to your friends about a great new game, not, hey, have you heard of crypto? And that's changed the requirements from a user experience perspective, because if you're talking about sitting in the pub and saying, hey, have you heard of this great new game? The user process to go and get a wallet to start using that game can still be really painful. So we've definitely noticed an increase in embedded wallets, which have some challenges associated with them as well. But the ability for me as a new user to just go onto a game, create a wallet, and I don't even know it's a wallet at the back end, and just start engaging with that really, really seamlessly, I think is one of the major drivers to the current rate of adoption that we're seeing. And having all of that packaged into one for developers, I think for us is really what we're focused on.
Speaking of embedded wallets, which has really sort of turned the onboarding flow and discovery flow for users on its head over the past few years. Even Phantom, last year launched their embedded wallet offering. In a world where people are onboarding onto Web3 via dApps instead, and just like creating embedded wallets, which acts less as a wallet and more like their account on that game or account on that DeFi protocol, right? What is the role of standalone wallets and wallet applications as we know them today in this case?
I mean, I think I often view the embedded wallet as just the gateway to Web3. One of the things that we did when we built our embedded wallet at Reown was to make that universal. So it's not captured by a single application. If you're using any Reown-enabled app, then you have the same wallet. It avoids this issue of like dust crypto sat in different places. So this idea of a universal wallet. We also have a graduation path so that you can export the keys. You can take that into a fully self-custodial environment if you want to. And we do see, I think we see that there will be a proportion of users who want to go down that route. They get excited by the crypto. They want to become, more self-custodial and more Web3 native. I think there's also just a big proportion of users who are just there for that specific game and aren't interested in what's underneath it. So again, I think we see these different things. And my hope, obviously being a self-custody fan, is that that does drive more people to onboard to crypto. People then start using these standalone wallets more. And I think as the functionality of those standalone wallets also improves and offers more, we'll see more people wanting to do that as well. And that we see that in the data on the Wallet Connect network, around the skew of different wallets in terms of market share. That's changed drastically even over the last 18 months, especially with more custodian wallets and stuff coming online. So I think there's always going to be a role for the self-custodial wallets. And I actually think that the embedded wallet might be a onboarding route for that.
That makes sense. Filip, you had something.
I disagree with that. With the embedded wallet thesis, I think it's just worse UX because you get onto a dApp, okay, it's great. It acquired you as a user. You deposited something in there, but then you still need that main wallet in order to interact with any other dApps or to know where at least all your funds are indexed in. So you need to know, okay, if I have 5 different apps, I have to have one central place that I know, okay, in dApp number 1, I have some funds here, I have some funds here. And then again, you need that one central wallet. And the embedded wallet analogy is always like, okay, just imagine that you're going to, 5 different coffee shops, and in every coffee shop you have a different card or a different bank account. I don't think that this is the future of how wallets will work.
But isn't that just like an abstraction thing? I feel like embedded wallets can graduate to that, right?
But then again, if you're that app, then why don't you just recommend that standalone wallet, that central wallet to begin with, and then spare them the pain of again downloading that central wallet? If the user is just going to be in that specific app, then it makes sense. For example, I don't know, Pump Fund. They have a ton of users. If those users are just going to use Pump Fund, they can use that embedded wallet. But as soon as that users wants to do anything else outside of Pump Fund, they will need a Solflare wallet or any Solana wallet specifically, because again, they will need one place where they know where their stuff is in.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here, I think you're both saying things that sound correct to me, and I think that's a sign of how bad the UX is today, which I think probably everybody here can agree on. But what I like, and it's Jesse, right?
Jess, yeah.
Jess, I liked what you were saying about how, and my kind of take on this is, it's almost like I think of like the Solflares, the Phantoms, backpacks, MetaMasks, all that are like almost like your Bank of America app. It's like your main banking app. And if you think about it, like when you look at the transactions in that banking app, there are things you're doing all throughout the world. There are products you're interacting with. There are all these things that you're doing, but it's this very thin slice of an experience. It's just a record on payments rails, which is horrible. And what I like about what you're describing is, and the promise of interoperability is if you can take your same wallet, or let's say some kind of like deterministically derived set of wallets with you between products, it's like that connection is now on steroids. So I think there's always going to be a place for that universal kind of like banking, Bank of America style product. But then if you're using the same wallet or set of wallets over in Pump or anywhere else, it's almost like you've got this super high fidelity two-way road between, and I think this is where like between your banking product and your payments product and like everything else you're using on the internet. And like to me, that's where crypto starts to get truly non-skeuomorphic with Web 2. And I think we like barely scratched the surface there.
But
I
you
think
can't
that's-
confuse the user. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone's very excited. I think that's the point. And I think also as we see more innovation around like permissions and smart sessions and account delegation, it stops this idea that these things are disaggregated from each other. And I can share permissions between wallets. I can delegate things between an app and a wallet. And I think, we're just hitting that stage of innovation right now for the ecosystem. And I think that that's, again, what stops this being this disaggregated thing and starts to open up this feeling that like everything is connected, but I still feel really secure and I still have a lot of control without this like disconnection.
I'm curious for the login authentication sign up SDK where where users have the option of either connecting their existing crypto wallet or creating an embedded wallet. Is there like for the dApps that have implemented that optionality? Are we seeing like what is the data we're seeing there in terms of like what users are opting for? I think just last year Coinbase in the earnings report published the data that when they offered the Coinbase embedded wallet for a dApp, it reduced the onboarding time versus onboarding with EOAs from 8 minutes to like 30 seconds. And that has obviously huge implications on churn. So which is what dApps are basically optimizing for, right? Especially new ones. So yeah, I'm curious if we're seeing like any data or like patterns on that.
Very dApp specific and dApp dependent, especially if you think about like their go-to-market and what they're offering. So it definitely varies. I think anecdotally, again, we hear the onboarding time is massively reduced. The amount of times people navigate away from that connect button is definitely also lower because people realize that they can connect in a different way. So we're seeing that. We're also seeing something interesting where people want to be able to use a combination of the two. So connecting an EOA wallet together with like a smart sessions enabled and an embedded wallet can mean that you can do things like dollar cost averaging or other types of interactions within the application, but still bringing your EOA into that app. So I think that is all evolving, but ultimately I think if you're building for a very intuitive user experience and as an application, what you care about, unfortunately, might not be overall UX. You care about your users and your application. Ultimately, you probably want to be in a position where you can have as many users as possible and give them choice. Say, you can bring your EOA, you can bring your ledger, you can bring your hardware wallet, you can also have an embedded wallet, and here's the choice. The analogy for me is always like if you're a shop, you never say like, oh, by the way, you can only use credit card here, and it also can only be Visa. Like, why would you do that? You want to accept money from everybody who's got money, and similarly, if you're building a crypto app, you want to be able to accept users from wherever they are.
That makes sense. So switching gears a little bit, that kind of builds on what we alluded to, is that there's a huge proliferation in the number of dApps and protocols available for users to kind of explore today, right? Which also poses two different issues. One is for these dApp developers, how do you solve for distribution, right? How do you get in front of as many users as possible? And then the other one is users' discoverability, right? Like let's say I have a wallet. how do I decide on what things I want to do on chain? So I think this is something that Blinks is trying to solve. So can you speak a little more about that?
Yeah, and maybe just like a little backstory for the audience. So blockchain links or Blinks, we launched at Dialect in collaboration with Solana Foundation last summer. And can kind of see the audience, like I'm curious how many people have heard of blockchain links. Okay, decent number. Whatever you think you know, forget it. Like that's just like what they were launched as was this really fun trick that we did basically to like bring crypto into crypto Twitter. And it went way more viral than we ever expected. And it was super fun. But that specific use of Blinks is one tactic and one destination. And it's not actually our vision or what we're actively working on right now with Blinks. So to come back to your question, the number one thing we're doing with Blinks today, so like forget these link preview style cards, forget these unfurling on social media, P2P sharing. Blinks are URLs, they are APIs that in a single call with no dependencies, no SDKs, no nothing, you can get a ready to sign transaction for any protocol that has developed a Blink. And we've got something like 600 Blinks today. We're building out this deep sort of like exhaustive set of them for all the major protocols. We're working closely with like Jupiter and Meteora and whatnot. And the reason I say all this is because, and I think you had mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation, today in a mobile wallet, it's where most users are spending their time. We're talking, you mentioned like millions of monthly active users. And then your average dApp has maybe, if they get lucky, tens of thousands of monthly actives. So there's like a, 100x difference here. And so dApps are looking for distribution and wallets are looking to do more things, give users more things to do with their crypto. And today, most wallets, you can basically like swap and like maybe stake, and that's it. And the reason why is because it takes fleets of engineers to actually integrate one by one the SDKs for these various protocols, especially if it's growing super fast. And so what Blinks do is they, by an order of magnitude or more, reduce the time it takes to bring in a new experience. So if you're a developer on a wallet team or some other kind of front end, and I actually think this point about apps too, you don't have to be a wallet, but if you've got some kind of new payments app, we're working with a number of mobile payments apps who want to be able to give their users the ability to earn, say, on Camino or Lulo on their idle USDC while they're doing other things. And that's an integration that app team needs to do. And what we're seeing pick up on now with Blinks is like bring any interface, any experience, any UX you want, but your team no longer has to grind to like understand and integrate dozens of SDKs. It's a standard URL based, almost like AWS for transactions is like where we're going. So all of which is basically to say there's this flip side of it. Like I mentioned earlier, okay, it's your Bank of America app. And yes, I believe there's a place for a thriving ecosystem of new and more diverse apps. But the other half of it is now into those experiences in your quote unquote Bank of America app, you can actually give users the ability to take action and do things. Right. This is what I mean about these like super high fidelity, two-way street, like high speed rails for experiences. And so we like to say that Blinks let products navigate to you. So it solves this 100x distribution problem of higher retention, higher engagement, higher LTV within the mobile wallets. And then on the flip side, better distribution for the dApps. And so like that's the problem that we're working on.
I can also just reiterate on that point because I think Chris is right, like in a sense that I think we have a stat that around 40%, 41% of all Solflare users actually don't connect to outside apps. And just because it's for them, when we talk to them, it's always two things. So one is they have no idea what is out there. So what opportunities are out there. And the second thing, and an even more important thing is they don't trust those outside apps because trust needs to be built and it takes time. So what Chris is saying, and I actually would agree with that. So as soon as we put something inside of the wallet, because if you already hold funds in the wallet, it means that you're trusting the wallet. We as a wallet actually extend our trust to that specific app. And we are actually working on a number of integrations right now, and we're going through all these hoops that Chris is saying. And oftentimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Sometimes those apps can't handle the load that we would basically transfer onto them because there's so many requests in a second. But we are actually working on it, and this is actually a good thing. So we then just need to build the UI. So
Right.
again, but just building the UI is also like a tricky thing. If we could abstract the UI even away, so make it like a chatbot type of thing of, hey, let me do just this, and then we can scale much more quickly and infinitely to basically to all apps that, for example, Blinks are supporting. Then we can offer a plethora of options to all of our users in a second and not maybe through years and years of development. So it may go down that road, but again, it's with that, I would say, power that we have in extending the trust, there's also a ton of responsibility, because if anything happens within Solflare, even if it's on an outside app, so something happened on the outside app, the users are most likely going to blame Solflare for it, because this is where they got exposed to. This is why we're super careful with the things that we integrate. And we have a whole process around it. Like, we vet them technically on a business side of view. We talk to those founders multiple times just to know, okay, is this app going to be here in a year or not?
Yeah.
And is this something that is safe for our users? So it's a very complicated process.
Actually, since you mentioned chatbots, I wanted to touch on the role of agents, actually, and how, to what extent do you think crypto, like AI agents, trading agents, will abstract away even the process of like having to pick which pools to deposit to? So this like is relevant for Blinks as well, right? Like, let's say you're presenting with all these options, but like the user still has to like make an active decision of like, okay, what do I want to do, versus I'm on Grok or ChatGPT, like expressing my goals, and then the wallet or whatever front end just works with the protocols on my behalf.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if you're building an AI agent or anything around that, like, choose life, like, build with Blinks. Like, this is, so we're not marketing this nearly well enough, but like, agents are only as good as the variety of experiences you can give them, and everyone's just like grinding these SDKs into, and like maintainability, upgradability, exhaustive support is all like terrible. Just call a URL, get the transaction, and then in addition to that, those URLs hold metadata that can allow your agent to figure out what to do. So to your question of like, users shouldn't necessarily have to choose which specific protocol. These are like generational financial instruments now available to people. And you can even do something safer, which is if you can integrate 10 plus X faster, you can also diversify more easily. So an agent can just say, look, I've deployed you across 20 different protocols. You have full liquidity with each one, and you're earning an average rate of like 7% APY or something. And like, it's just, the abstraction that we need for users requires a lot of engineering, and all we're doing with Blinks is trying to reduce engineering.
I would just note here one more time that, again, this is handling user funds, and that, again, all of those protocols that we could potentially integrate very fast need to be battle tested, vetted,
100%,
15 times, and this has to go through a lengthy process of testing until we get to a point where it could be really offered to the everyday user, not to someone who's actually super risk prone, because this is a very risky type of thing to do.
And I think like Filip, 100% agree on that. I actually like wouldn't even push back on that at all, because I think anyone who is front door to a user's experience and holding funds got to take those integrations seriously. It's about any amount of time you're not spending grinding through something you don't need to do, you can put toward other reasons. So better UX, better vetting and safety, better. It's just about sort of like reducing engineering. So yeah.
To what extent do you guys think that the rise of like number of chains and ecosystems that are available has helped or hindered UX? And how are we tackling that as like wallet applications, as middleware?
I'm going to take the middle ground. It's easy. I think like in some ways it's done an awful lot because it's created competition and the ability to try new things and innovate in different ways that I think is really good. It'd be really sad for the industry if we said, okay, we've figured it all out. We're just going to do it like this right now and go in one direction. On On the other hand, it creates a ton of challenges, and with each of those challenges, every time we solve the problem, it creates more problems. But I think that, I guess if I had to pick between the two overall, I think it's we're in a phase where the pain points are very magnified right now because we haven't solved some of these user experience challenges. But I'm pretty optimistic that a lot of those things will be abstracted away over the coming years. We built a payments product, for example, that allows you to pay with stablecoin on any chain, doesn't matter where it is, and we manage all of that at the back end for the application and the merchant. So increasingly, I think there will be solutions that mean from a user perspective and an app perspective, it doesn't matter which chain you're on. But overall, I think that the competition is good.
It doesn't matter what chain you're on if you're on a good chain. So, so if you're on ETH and you pay $40 for a transaction, then it matters which chain you're on. So I would say that we're very fortunate to everyone who's building on Solana that we have the chain problem solved in a sense. So we're not trying to build and solve for scaling and anything else. We're just talking about UX and how to onboard the user and how to provide value, and not how will the app actually work. So this is actually a great thing for us. And this is, I think, one of the things why Solana has actually succeeded in a way that it did, because it was an underdog like 3-4 years ago. And it did succeed because it provided that 10x improvement. And then we could just focus on UX and providing better apps, better user experiences, and everything else than, for example, E. And I don't think that 65 L2s are going to change that. Again, I'm very biased. I don't think that I need to mention it anymore, but I think that Solana is in a great position to make that happen.
I think it's just like crypto and blockchains are bringing like free market forces to new places. It's just like max experimentation, max chaos. Like that's a good thing, like survival of the fittest. And like we'll find things that are amazing and find product market fit, and people will find out how to abstract them and make them usable. So I think it's a good thing.
Nice. With that, we're a little bit over time, but I think this has been a super great discussion. So thank you all for joining us.